Hello and welcome to Sim.bc, where right now is 16:31 in that pre-evening. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it's pre-evening. It's not afternoon, it's not evening, because it is bloody pre-evening. That's what we're rolling with, that's what we're rocking with. Outside it's a bit grey. I'm saying a bit grey, it's really grey. It's like grey as my soul, as my future prospects of getting a job. It's like really dizzy outside. It's not good at all, but that's not what you're here for. And I know, we're jumping into it quickly, because over the last couple of weeks, over the last week rather, I've been tending to drift away from the topic that I want to discuss. I've been drifting out to different directions, I've been discussing a lot, I've been exploring new points, which is all good, all fine, all dandy when it comes down to it, but I do want to try to have at least a concise discussion about the topic that we're going to be presenting today. So, just to establish some general context, I'm a Swede, I apply to logic, I'm not raised in a religious home, and well, religion to me, it's just like I'm envious of the people who are religious because they're giving themselves up to faith, which I think is cool in a way, but I just can't see it personally. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Not that it necessarily has anything to do with religion, but it might do, right? And it's always good establishing that context in the beginning so you know who is answering the questions. Where am I coming from? And what are we actually going to talk about then? You might ask, sitting there in your comfy couch chugging a, I don't know, Coke, a chocolate bar. It's, people are wild these days. They can be chugging every single thing on earth, probably. Can probably mix them into a smoothie in one way or another. We're going to continue on the topic that I promised you as of yesterday. Yes, because here we're working with structure. And that was the news piece taking up integration in comparison to keeping your traditions. And there's probably a word for that, but I couldn't find it yesterday. Can't find it today either. So we're talking about integration in comparison to keeping your tradition. Keep what you already have whilst trying to integrate new things into society. And the obvious thing that I kind of correlated that to as of yesterday was the idea that imagine you being a manager. And I know this is kind of drifting a bit apart but we're doing this in the beginning, so it's quick, right? Imagine you being a manager and you want a more diverse workforce. Now, why would you like that? Well, in order to gain more perspectives on what you're gonna do. You have a problem, you want to have more people looking at that problem from different directions so that we can actually come with some form of decisive conclusion. Now, wouldn't that just be the best thing in the world? But usually, as a manager, you're saying to other people who are from other cultures, from other backgrounds, with other schools of thought, you're saying, nice, you're from a different walk of life than I am, and I want to hire you for that. But you you kind of need to do as I say and think in the way that I do, because that's how we work here, right? So you're trying to integrate stuff, you're trying to integrate new things, you're trying to have this diverse workforce, you're trying to have this diverse workflow, and that's two thumbs fresh, mates. That's really good. But however, simultaneously, you want to keep the traditions that you have. You want to keep the culture that you have. You don't want to interact with the new things because that's dangerous. It feels dangerous. And that's exactly that precise problem that so many managers face, especially today of all times, right, in history. I've never seen any historical example of it being that important to have a diverse workforce as of today, because it's both the profitable aspects of it and the social pressure, because people tend to say you should have a diverse workforce even if it benefits you or not. But I would argue that 9.9999999 out of 10 times it will probably benefit you. Sorry, it will benefit you. It's just my perception of it, my perspective. But this problem can be carried over into society, and that was kind of the thing that we touched on yesterday. And that entire idea is that we, especially in Sweden, because I was talking about Sweden, not saying that Sweden is the only country that have immigrants, because, we're not. Ain't saying that we're taking in more than we can handle, because, in my perception, we ain't. But yet again, that's just my perspective of it, and I know that's a really sensitive topic, so if you're out there and saying like, hey, they can stay where they are, don't let them come here. I'm just saying, north of Sweden, 33% of Sweden at least is just forest. I mean, I think we can shove some people in there if we really need to. The space is there, which is the common, occurrence of people saying that, no, we can't, we don't have the space. And I'm like, well, we do. Just a matter of distribution, yeah? It's a logistics problem, a supply chain management issue. However, what they were talking about in this article was the integration yet again versus tradition. Because we're in Sweden, we tend to say that, we really want to have new integration. We want you to be as free as humanly possible. You know, religious freedom, cultural freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of thought, I don't know. But if it can be free, we kind of want you to have it to be free, yeah? Simultaneously, in that same vein, if people need to feel free, or if we want people to feel free, so to say, off shackles and so on and so forth, then we do not want them to be discriminated or in any, we don't want to be offensive in any way, right? That's not good. That means that some people are seeing what I do as offensive. That means that they're not free in the same sense. Even though they have the same, what should we say? It's like a leveled play field. All the people have the same opportunity. They're treated the same, but just that some people are not seen to be free based on their own perception. Because, and I know there's different manners of looking at that, but for right now, saying that of their own perception, they see that I'm not free because you're behaving in a certain way that's offensive to me, so I feel threatened. Now, how much threatened you are? Probably a basis of the issue in question, yeah. But the thing that we're singling out was that, well, in Sweden we kind of tend to want to keep our traditions. Now I'm on the set of mind that tradition doesn't really matter that much. If you love your family, you should meet them anyway, right? If you love your friends, you should meet them anyway. You shouldn't need to have a designated day for that thing, right? Same as Valentine's Day. Why have one day in the year when you want to spread that love? Why not each and every single day of the year? And yet again, it's probably a logistics and consumption problem, because we're living in a society where consumption is kind of a great and good behavior, or is seen as one, and therefore it's good to have these holidays where you can theme all of your merchandise around that and you can sell more. What matters less. But the idea still comes down to that we kind of tend to want to keep our traditions, even though we're trying to invite new people into society. And what happens there is that some people, especially according to this article, the middle class, the wealthy middle class, who has no financial issues, yeah, they have a financial security in where they are. They usually live in environments and places where there aren't that much integration going on. And these people are the forefront of saying that immigration to Sweden is good. We want more immigrants, because they probably can't see them because they don't live in an area where there is that much integration. Whilst on the other hand, there are some people saying that we don't want more integration because we already have a lot of integration, based on that they're living in an area where there is a lot of integration. Now, I'm saying this is obviously a generalization. There are probably, or rather, there are people of both sides who tend to disagree with the article's generalization here, and so in the extension of that, my generalization that I'm doing here as well. But it's kind of interesting to see that this idea brought up, the statistics brought up. I haven't really looked at the statistics, so yet again, source critique be applied here. Yeah, it's important. But the entire idea of that the people who aren't integrated, they feel like we need more integration, and they live in a place where there isn't that much of integration. Anyway, that nonetheless, we shouldn't spin out on that aspect as of now, right? Trying to keep it concise for a while. But also, I think that it kind of argues for is the idea that since we have this integration and we want to make them feel free, we want to make them feel welcome, we want to make them feel as a part of Sweden, yeah? Because that's ultimately the goal here, right? We let them in, we let them be a part of our society, yeah? We let them be our society, not them, we are a society. Not that we and them, but we all who live inside of these borders should be one society, right? That's the goal here. But yet again, the idea comes up that if there is this significant proportion of the population that thinks that we all have this idea of what we want to do. So for instance, let's say it's a tradition that isn't originating from Sweden. Let's say that during the 1900s or in the 20th century, it didn't exist in Sweden, at least not to a statistical significant sample, right? There wasn't enough people, there wasn't a big enough proportion of these people during the 20th century in Sweden. I thought we were going to do this thing, whatever it is, right? But now there is, because there is more immigration and more immigration and emigration. The idea that tends to come up is that, well, we want to be free and feel free, so we want to introduce this as a Swedish tradition because we see ourselves as Swedes, and that all for that, good. Because we want that. And now we want to integrate, well, our cultural assumptions and our religious assumptions and our religion, our traditions into the Swedish way of doing things. Because we see ourselves as Swedes and we want to uphold our traditions, publicly. Because many people tend to say that, oh, it's all good, it's all fine, it's all dandy. Kind of the same idea that the people who have the economical stability and don't live in integrated areas are very for and pro, integration. Same thing goes for, oh, it's really good that you have your own traditions. As long as you don't show them, as long as you keep them to yourselves, yeah, it's good that you have your own values. As long as you keep them to yourselves, yeah, and that might be a basis of Swedish behavior and Swedish culture, the lagom, yeah, jantelagen, you shouldn't stick out, you should do what everybody else is doing, so don't introduce anything new. That could be the case, that might be the case, probably is the case, right? I'd blame that if anything. But this has been happening in other countries as well. As I said, I've been in France for a while, or I was in France for a while, and it was kind of the same idea there. That, oh yeah, you should be able to be whoever you want, as long as you are whoever you want on your own time, in your own home. And I was like, is that really freedom? In a way, isn't that really bad to say that? Anyway, so the entire idea that is struck in here, the problem that I was talking about yesterday as well, was this idea of, well, where do we draw the line between integration and tradition? Where do we actually change? Where do we come down on that? Where do we stand on that? And I will do something that I generally do, but I think I'm not doing, but I kind of always do. Speak my mind, right? I will talk about my opinion about it all. And I'd say, based on that, I'm not someone who is that big in tradition. Yeah, if Christmas went away, not that big of a deal. I mean, I would be affected, but in the long run, probably I wouldn't care that much. There are more things that I'm more concerned about, right, than traditions. So I'd say, just introduce new traditions, right? And maybe a bi-celebrative tradition, if there is something that happens to come along in a different faith or a different cultural perception, together with or very closely to Easter, then maybe we can combine those two, that we have Easter and something else. Perhaps we have Midsummer and something else, because it's in close proximity in the dates, yeah, so we can actually celebrate them at the same time. Or maybe we just introduce more holidays and then we don't need to work. Woohoo! Yeah, wouldn't that just be the best? But I like to work, probably. I haven't actually worked for real anytime ever, so I probably can't state that. But I think it's going to be fun to work. I like to exercise. My opinion, I like to be efficient. I like to work. Anyway. Whew, that sounded really weird. Anyway, so when it comes down to it, my perception of it is that, well, just take away our tradition. It's not really a problem. And introduce the new ones. It's good with change. Change for change's sake. We'll see if it works. If it doesn't stick, take it away again. Bring back the old tradition. If it sticks, it sticks. And that might be our new traditions. But what people are so criminally afraid of is that, but we will lose what is a Swede. Yeah, we will lose the sensation of, who am I as a national, as a population? Who am I as a Swede? And it was the same thing in France. Yeah, people were like, who am I as a French person, right? And to that, I just say, based on the same idea that traditions isn't that big of a deal to me, internet. Yeah, the internet exists. We can see all over the world. We can see different things. Sure, there's a biased version of everything, and we have to keep that in mind as we go online on the internet and view different pieces of information. Sure, that is the case, but we can see different things happening all over the world, right? I can have an insight into what is happening in Bulgaria if I do so choose to want to, right? I even can read their own news in their language because I have Google Translate, and if that is biased, I can probably go to any other translate site out there, and if that doesn't work, then I can probably go to my university and ask someone there to be like, hey, can you help me translate this from your own language? And of course there will still be a bias there, but there is so many ways to avoid a bias. So what I'm trying to say here with this is that the internet is making us a more global people. As a people, yeah. Not even talking about the Swedes, the French anymore. I'm talking about the world. Everywhere where the internet spreads, where it can gain, where it can connect, is creating a more global society, right? A more global people, and I feel that way. I feel like we're more like a people in the world than we are different nations, yeah? Because I'm saying that I'm a Swede, but do I really care? I'm like a human, yeah? And that is a very, very probably not sure liberal thought. That might be a very conservative thought. It probably isn't. hitting on political issues isn't my strong suit in political terminology, but I assume that's a very liberal approach towards, life and who we are as a people and who we all are. And I'm thinking that we're becoming more and more of a global people. So introducing that mindset into this same context is that what is it that keeps me being a Swede? What is it that keeps me being a French person? Well, spoiler alert, there ain't anything. Because if you think about it, what is actually making you French? What is actually making you a Swede? Because if you just back the band a couple of thousand years, then all of us were probably originating from Africa or from anywhere else. So we're all immigrants when it gets down to it. That's just a matter of perception though, because people are talking about, oh yeah, but the culture should be the thing that defines the people, because, oh yeah, sure, all of us are immigrants. And I'm like, yes. But simultaneously though, culture has changed over the thousands of years that we've been living, right? I mean, culture in Sweden didn't look like culture in Sweden 2,000 years ago. If you look at the Vikings, for instance, that's probably not how the values of the Vikings are probably not the same values as I would like to say that I uphold today as a Swede. And the problem with that is that the things that I'd say that I uphold as a Swede is the same thing as they uphold in Denmark and Norway and Finland and Iceland and France and Germany and the rest of Europe, right? Where a lot of it is. So when people are saying, but if we have more immigration, how can we know what makes me a Swede? Well, if it is a cultural perception, if it is the values, then look towards yourself, right? Isn't that the best? Or look at the continent. Let's say that, well, you aren't a Swede anymore. Or maybe that doesn't matter. Why should that matter is probably the thing that I come down to. Well, anyway, that's a totally different discussion, really. And I feel how I am generalizing and very contradicting myself here. So please don't don't quote me on this this discussion around that part. But when he talks about the challenge of integration and tradition, I'm for, throw out tradition, bring in the change. Yeah, that's just my perception. In the entire discussion on what is it that really keeps you being a Swede, well, there are very many variables to keep in consideration and to take into account that I probably can't do in 20 minutes, even if I would like to, and even if I had a script, probably still wouldn't be able to do that. So the odds that I will do that in a raw format, so to say, is really, really low. However, what I will say is that internet, global people. I'm seeing myself more and more as a citizen of the world, less and less as a Swede. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? That's probably up for you to decide. I can't say, with all certainty if I like it or if I dislike it, or if you should like it or dislike it, because that would be a harsh generalization. But a realization as well, maybe, in and within itself. And now I realize that I've been standing here talking for, 17, 18 minutes anyway, even though I said this was going to be a concise, short video, because I have food on the stove that's probably more black than white, and it's rice. Yeah, it's gonna be a lovely time eating that. At least it smells good. So, anyway, matters less. Yet again, I'm spinning away on a different branch. Probably gonna have to end it here if I feel like when I review it in retrospect that, wow, I was missing out of all of the important points because I didn't really come to any form of conclusion here, or at least I don't think so. Maybe you can see a conclusion here that I didn't. Probably that would originate to, in with the new, out with the old. Doesn't really matter, traditions anymore, and more of a global people, less of a national. Might be the conclusion here, but yet again, that's based on harsh generalizations and based on 1, 2, 3 sources in my life experience. So keep source critique in mind. It's really important that you view this from your perspective as well. Have a nice one, mates, and I'll see you tomorrow with a new video. Whatever that's gonna be, because I have so many things in my head that I want to talk about, and most of the things I have in my head, it's all about statistical tests, because the thesis, But we're gonna talk about something really interesting tomorrow, as usual, Have a nice one, mates. See ya. Bye.